My name's Mark. I'm 45. I run a small construction outfit based out of Oregon. Been swinging hammers and digging footings since I was 20. Rain or shine, cold or blistering. I know the weight of wood, the tension in steel, the sound concrete makes when it cures just right. There's a rhythm to that kind of life, predictable even when it's backbreaking. I married Rachel 5 years ago. She had 2 kids from a previous marriage. Evan was 13 then, Sophie 11. Their father, Derek, was a name more than a man. Lived in Nevada. Sent birthday texts. Showed up once or twice a year with new sneakers and big stories. Never picked up the phone when the school called. Never showed for parent-teacher conferences. But when he did come, it was a show. Drone flying, selfies with the kids, dinners out, no responsibilities. The kind of man who could afford to be adored because he didn't carry the weight. I came in quiet. I wasn't there to replace anybody. That's what I told myself. I figured if I just kept showing up, if I stood in the gap when Derek vanished, they'd come around. I wasn't after affection. I just wanted respect. Not the kind you demand. The kind you earn. So I stepped up. Slowly, consistently. When Sophie needed braces, I paid for them. When Evan wanted to join a baseball league and Rachel hesitated because the fees were steep, I covered it. I made sure their phones stayed on, their bikes got fixed, their backpacks didn't tear at the seams. I was there every morning before school, coffee in hand, asking about tests and friends and the kinds of things kids usually shrug off. And every night I was home, unless a job ran late, making dinner or scrubbing pans or replacing the toilet that backed up for the 3rd time in 2 months. I didn't ask for anything back. I thought that was the point of family, to give without keeping score. But I should have kept score. Little things started stacking up. Slights, mostly. Nothing anyone else would notice. The first time I tried to help Evan with his math homework, he pushed the book toward Rachel instead. Said, "Mom explains it better." Even though she was barely keeping up. Fine. I backed off. Sophie once asked Rachel if she could skip her piano lesson. Rachel looked at me. I said no. She looked back at Sophie and said, "Well, let's see how the week goes." That was how it was, always. I'd lay down a rule, she'd soften it. I'd say no to something, they'd ask her and get a maybe. My words didn't travel far in that house. They never landed. Just bounced around like loose nails in a toolbox, eventually forgotten. But I still held on. Thought I could earn my way into the circle. One Saturday, Evan and I spent 5 hours in the garage replacing the brake pads on Rachel's old Honda. He didn't want to at first. Said he'd just take it to a shop, but I insisted. Told him he should know how to take care of the machines he uses. By the end of it, he was greasy, tired, and almost smiling. I offered him a soda, and we sat on the tailgate of my truck like equals for a minute. I thought, there it is. This is the crack in the wall. Maybe it's finally coming down. A week later, I overheard him in his room, talking to a friend on speakerphone. I was walking past to drop a basket of laundry in the hall. His door was cracked just enough. "He just pays for stuff," he said. "He doesn't decide anything." Laughed, like it was obvious. Sophie chimed in from somewhere inside the room. Her voice always a little too sharp when she spoke about me. "Yeah, Mom's the one in charge anyway." I stood there, holding that basket like it weighed 50 pounds. Listening. It didn't surprise me, not really. But it hurt anyway. I kept walking, placed the basket down, and went back to the garage. Sat there for 20 minutes in the quiet, staring at the brake dust still on the concrete floor. Later that night, Rachel and I sat in the living room. The kids had gone upstairs. The TV was on, but neither of us was really watching. I brought it up gently. "I heard Evan talking earlier," I said. "He said I don't really have a say in anything." Rachel didn't flinch. Didn't even pause. "They're just kids, Mark. Teenagers. You know how they are." "Yeah," I said. "I do. But they don't talk about you like that." She shrugged. "It's different." I nodded, though I didn't agree. Different, sure. But why? I didn't press. Didn't push. I'd learned by then that when Rachel said teenagers, she meant don't expect change. When she said different, she meant don't question it. The next few months blurred by. Work picked up. More overtime, more bids, more stress. I paid for Sophie's dance competition in Portland, Evan's new laptop for school, Rachel's root canal when our insurance denied the claim. I bought groceries, filled gas tanks, and covered 2 speeding tickets that Evan swore weren't his fault. They kept living. I kept paying. It was a machine, fuel in, motion out. No thanks, no respect, no questions asked. And then one night, Sophie came home an hour past curfew. I was the only one still awake. I asked her where she'd been. She rolled her eyes and said, "Out." That's not an answer. She stared at me, arms folded, mouth twisted. I told Mom I was going to Ashley's. That was 3 hours ago. She shrugged. Didn't know I had to clear it with you. Something in me buckled. You live under my roof. You do. She smiled. Not a kind one. That's funny. You always say that, my roof, but it's Mom's house too, and she's fine with it. Later, when I brought it up to Rachel, she sighed. Don't be dramatic, Mark, she said. They're teenagers. You need to pick your battles. That was the moment. Not the disrespect. Not the backtalk. Not even the curfew. It was the word dramatic. Like I was some kind of overbearing tyrant for expecting basic rules. Like I was a child throwing fits. Like I hadn't spent years building the life they all lived in like it was owed to them. She didn't say I was wrong. She didn't say Sophie would be punished. She said I was dramatic. That night, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, counting all the bills I'd paid, all the errands I'd run, all the miles driven, dollars spent, hours lost. Not to be thanked. I didn't expect that. But to be seen, to be counted. I wasn't counted at all. I realized I could vanish from the house tomorrow and the lights would still come on. The fridge would still be full, the gas tank still filled, for a little while anyway, and the only thing they'd notice missing was someone to blame when rules felt inconvenient. I had mistaken contribution for belonging, investment for influence, and I had nothing to show for it but receipts. The next morning, I woke up early and started writing. Not in anger, just facts. What I paid monthly, what they used, what the true cost of being invisible was. Because I had a feeling it was time someone else paid the bill. I didn't slam drawers, didn't yell. I didn't make a scene. I just stopped. It began with the list, 2 pages, front and back. Itemized, labeled, cold as concrete in December. I listed every cent I was responsible for each month. Evan's car insurance, Sophie's phone plan, their streaming services, clothes, gas money, dance fees, SAT prep, Rachel's subscriptions, groceries, health insurance premiums, even their favorite takeout orders. It came out to just under $1,000 a month. $1,000 tithe paid into a household where my voice didn't echo, where I was a fixture, not a father. A bank account with a name they refused to speak unless it was to complain. At the bottom of the page, I wrote one sentence. $0 going forward. I folded it, left it on the kitchen counter, went to work. The first domino fell the next morning. Evan stood at the fridge, shaking an empty milk jug, face twisted in teenage disbelief. Are we out? I nodded. Yep. He looked at me like I'd broken some unspoken covenant. Aren't you going shopping? Not this week, I said. Not for you. He blinked. What? Ask your dad. Sophie needed a ride to her friend's house later that afternoon. Rachel was working. I was home. She walked into the living room, dangling her keys like bait. Can you drop me off? No, I said. Ask your dad. She rolled her eyes. He lives in another state. Then take the bus. Call an Uber. Figure it out. She left the room muttering. Rachel thought I was bluffing. That night, she confronted me while I was going through receipts in the garage. The same place I used to teach Evan how to sand deck boards and gap siding. That place meant something once. Not anymore. You're being petty, she said. No, I said. I'm being done. She crossed her arms. What are you trying to prove? That you don't get to treat someone like an outsider and expect them to fund your life. Her voice was low, measured, like she thought she could still talk me down. They're kids. They're not blind. They know how they treat me, and you do too. She didn't argue that. She just stood there, silent, That silence, it was always her answer. Whenever I needed backing. Whenever I tried to draw a line. She didn't say no, but she never said yes either. That silence was how I ended up here. By the end of the week, the house was stuttering like a machine with no oil. Phone plans shut off. Netflix gone. Amazon account deactivated. Sophie's dance payment missed the deadline. Evan's Spotify stopped mid-song. The car insurance I used to pay every month? Cancelled. A letter came 2 days later. Evan opened it and stormed into the kitchen. My insurance lapsed, he said. I know. His face flushed. What the hell, Mark? I stared at him. Ask your dad. He's not gonna pay for this. I shrugged. Then drive carefully. That night, Rachel didn't talk to me. But she didn't offer to fix it either. She just went quiet, as if watching a structure she thought was solid begin to groan under its own weight. I gave them one more day. Then I loaded the truck. It was a Thursday, overcast, cold. I pulled Sophie's pink suitcase from the hall closet. Evan's duffel bag from under the stairs. Packed them like someone moving out. Folded, zipped, taped. They stood in the doorway when they realized what I was doing. Where are you going with that? Sophie asked. Derek's. Evan stepped forward. You're kidding. No. You're taking us to Dad's? I'm returning you. Rachel came down the stairs. Mark, this isn't funny. I'm not laughing. Sophie's voice cracked. He doesn't even have a bedroom for us. Sounds like something he should have planned for. I said. You're punishing us. Evan snapped. No. I'm stepping aside. You said I was just the guy who pays for stuff. Well, now I'm not even that. I opened the door. The cold air hit my face like a challenge. No one moved. So I went to the truck. Put the bags in. Slammed the tailgate. They followed. Rachel didn't yell. She didn't cry. Just walked behind them like someone half awake, stunned by her own reflection. The drive to Derek's was long. 3.5 hours of silence. No music. Just the tires chewing pavement and the weight in my chest that no seatbelt could restrain. They didn't speak. Not once. Not even to each other. When we pulled into Derek's apartment complex. Beige. Cheap. The kind of place where tenants stack empty beer boxes on balconies. I parked, got out and opened the tailgate. Derek answered the door wearing basketball shorts and a t-shirt 2 sizes too big. He looked confused. Then annoyed. Then tired. What's this? He asked. Your turn, I said. He glanced behind me, saw the kids and frowned. You serious? As a heart attack. Evan's face was pale. Sophie looked like she might cry. Derek stared at me, then at them. I'm not ready for. I don't have space. Figure it out, I said. I dropped the bags by the door, turned, walked away, didn't look back. The ride home was different. Empty cab. No noise. Just the whine of the engine and the hum in my ears like someone had pulled the plug on a life I didn't know I was drowning in. Back at the house, I changed the alarm code. Deleted their fingerprints from the smart lock. Unlinked their phones from the Wi-Fi. Took down the framed picture in the hall, the one from the state park last year. The one where I was smiling because I thought we were getting somewhere. I put it in the closet. Behind old coats and in used camping gear. Somewhere they wouldn't see it. Somewhere I wouldn't either. Rachel came home later. Alone. She didn't say much. Just stood in the doorway, staring at the empty hall. You really did it, she said. I did. Her voice was a whisper. They weren't ready. They were ready to disrespect me. They were ready to ignore me. They were ready to use what I gave and spit on the hand that gave it. Her face twisted, pained. They're just kids. I shook my head. No, they're your kids. And I was just the wallet with a heartbeat. She didn't argue. She couldn't. Because deep down she knew. She had let it happen. She had let them build a world where I didn't belong, and expected me to pay for it anyway. The next day was quieter. And the day after that. 3 days passed. Then Sophie called. Her voice cracked as soon as she spoke. He said we can't stay long. Said we need to figure it out. Evan called an hour later. We can't sleep on his couch forever. Can we come home? I paused. Let the silence stretch. Then I said, "This isn't a hotel. This is a house. If you come back, you live by the rules." They agreed. The next day they returned, bags in hand, faces down. No music in their ears, no sass in their mouths. Just silence. The kind that knows it's broken something. I opened the door. Let them in. No hugs. No fanfare. Just one rule. Spoken once, clear and cold. No more talk about who pays for what. You want to live here, you respect the roof over your head. You respect me. They nodded. Rachel sat beside me that night. No wine, no shows. Just the two of us on the couch. She took my hand. Tentative, like she wasn't sure if she had the right. "I should have backed you up more," she said. I didn't answer. Not yet. The repair had begun, but not for free. 3 days. That's how long it took before Sophie called. I recognized her voice, even though it cracked like ice under a boot. "He told us to figure it out," she whispered. "Said we weren't his problem." Then silence, like she thought that alone might pull pity from me. I waited a beat, let the silence stretch, just enough for her to feel it. Then I said, "You're not guests here if you respect the house." I hung up before she could ask what that meant, because that was the lesson. Respect first, then shelter, not the other way around. An hour later, Evan called. His tone was different, not angry, not sarcastic. It was the voice of a boy who realized the bluff had been called and there was no one left at the table. "We want to come home," he said. I didn't answer right away, because what I wanted to say was, "It's not your home." But I didn't. Not yet. Instead, I told him the truth. This house has rules, and the first one is respect. They showed up the next day. Both of them. No bags this time. Just shoulders hunched low, eyes darting. The smell of cold air clinging to their coats. Rachel opened the door before I could. She looked at me as if waiting for a sign. I didn't give her one. I just stepped aside. Let them in. They walked past me like ghosts. Sat down in the living room without turning on the TV. Didn't ask for Wi-Fi. Didn't mention food. Just sat. Silent. I didn't sit with them. I went into the kitchen. Made myself coffee. Drank it slowly while the silence weighed on them like drywall dust in a lung. When I came back out, I didn't say much. "Your phones are still off. Your insurance is still canceled. That doesn't change overnight." Evan nodded. Sophie glanced at him, then down at her hands. That was enough for now. That night, Rachel and I sat in the garage. We hadn't done that in months. She brought 2 folding chairs and a blanket. Said she needed to be away from the tension. "I know what I let happen," she said. I didn't say anything. I kept thinking they'd grow out of it. That if I just kept the peace, eventually they'd come around. I didn't want to be the bad guy. I looked at her. Hard. Tired. And what did that make me? She closed her eyes. I thought it was better for them to love someone than fear someone. I thought if I kept them close, I could fix it later. They loved Derek. She flinched. "Still do," I said. "Even though he forgets their birthdays. Even though he calls twice a year and sends gifts with gift receipts. They still love him." Rachel nodded. "I know. And me?" I asked. She didn't answer. I stood up. Walked back inside. Left her in the garage with her silence. The next morning, I found Evan in the driveway. He had the old mower out, the rusted red one with the belt that slips when it gets wet. He was checking the oil. "Didn't ask you to do that," I said. "I know." He didn't look at me. I watched him for a minute, then walked away. The lawn got cut. Not well, but it got cut. Sophie asked me later that day if I knew anyone hiring for weekend babysitting. I looked at her, trying to see the trick. "Why?" She shrugged. "Dance class costs money. I want to go back. Figured I should pay for it." I almost laughed. Not out of mockery, out of disbelief. Out of something close to hope. She didn't smile. She meant it. So I gave her the number of a family down the road. Told her the pay wasn't great, but the kids were easy. She said thanks. First time I'd heard that word from her in months. That evening, Rachel and I ate dinner at the table. Just the two of us. The kids ate later, on their own, quietly, no complaints. No eye rolls. No demands. Midway through the meal, she put her fork down. They're different. No, I said. They're humbled. That's not the same thing? I shook my head. Humbled is temporary. Different is earned. She sighed. Then I guess we wait. I didn't reply. I wasn't ready to offer comfort. Not yet, because comfort had become a currency in that house. Spent carelessly, hoarded in silence. And I wasn't giving any more of it away for free. 2 weeks passed. The house didn't feel whole. But it wasn't hostile anymore either. Just quieter. Still, like the aftermath of a storm. Evan started coming to my workshop on Saturdays. Said he wanted to learn something useful. I gave him a pile of scrap wood and told him to square the edges. Took him 3 hours to do it badly. But he stayed. Came back the next week too. Didn't ask for anything. Didn't need praise. Just stayed. Sophie kept babysitting. Came home tired but calm. Didn't slam her door. Didn't blast music. Just ate dinner, asked how work was, went to bed. I caught her once. Putting her babysitting cash in an envelope labeled Dance Fund. She had written it in purple marker, underlined it twice. I didn't say anything. Just walked away. The house was healing. Not fast. Not loud. But it was healing. And Derek? Gone again. The kids noticed this time. That was the shift. Not that he vanished, that was expected. But that they noticed. That they felt the hole. That they didn't rush to defend him when his silence became too loud to ignore. Evan asked about him over dinner. You think he'll call? Rachel paused. I don't know. Sophie shrugged. He's probably busy. I watched them both. No sarcasm. No anger. Just disappointment so quiet it didn't need words. It landed deeper than any fight we'd ever had. I didn't say I told you so. Didn't need to. They were starting to see the architecture behind the illusion. That flashy gestures and bloodlines didn't hold up when the wind picked up. That showing up matters more than being named. That name, Dad, it never came. Not yet. But the bitterness was gone. The defiance too. What was left? People. Not family. Not exactly. But people who might become family if the scaffolding held. One night, Rachel came into the bedroom while I was changing out of my work clothes. She looked tired. Hair up. No makeup. Her voice was soft. You've been quiet lately. So have you. She sat down on the edge of the bed. I want to make this work, she said. I didn't answer. She took my hand. Tell me what you need. I looked at her, and I told her. I need backup. Not excuses. Not silence. Not, they're just kids. I need a partner. If I say no, you say no. If I lay down a rule, you stand behind it. I don't need a referee. I need a wife. Her eyes welled up. I can do that. I nodded. We'll see. It wasn't a threat. It was just the truth. Because love isn't a promise. It's a pattern. And patterns take time. A week later, Evan came into the garage, holding 2 sodas. He handed me one, cracked his open, sat down on the bench. Shop class is full, he said. So I'm taking welding instead. I raised an eyebrow. You okay with that? He shrugged. Yeah, I think it'll be useful. I like working with my hands. He took a sip, then looked at me. You think that's dumb? I looked him in the eye. No, I said. I think it's honest. He smiled. Just a little. That was the first real smile I'd seen from him in over a year. Sophie came home later that week with a flyer from the community center. Volunteer program, she said. I want to help with the younger kids. I think I'm good with them. I nodded. That's good. She waited, then said it soft, unsure. Thanks for not giving up on me. I didn't answer, just gave her a look that said more than words ever could. She walked away, head high, shoulders straight. Rachel watched it all happen, quietly, respectfully, and for once she didn't try to narrate it. She just let it be. The air in the house was lighter now. Not because things were perfect, but because the weight wasn't all on me anymore. I had carried them, for years, alone. Now, they were walking, on their own. And that made all the difference. Respect changes everything. Not all at once, not like a light switch. Creeps in slow, like dawn through blackout curtains. You don't notice until the room's already full of daylight. That's how it started in our house. Quiet changes. Not dramatic. Not loud. Just a shift. A tightening of the bolts that had rattled loose for too long. I wasn't back to being the head of the house. But I wasn't invisible anymore either. Evan got up early now. Didn't slam the bathroom door. Didn't leave clumps of toothpaste in the sink. One morning I came down to find him making eggs. For himself. For Sophie. Even left a plate warming in the oven for Rachel. Didn't say anything about it. Just left it there like it was normal. Sophie stopped treating her bedroom like a hotel suite. She folded blankets. Put away her shoes. Started lighting candles, the nice ones Rachel kept hidden under the bathroom sink. The ones I used to joke were too expensive to burn. Sophie burned them anyway. Said the house smelled better that way. Said it helped her think. And Rachel? She changed too. Subtle at first. No more "they're just kids." No more soft-voiced negotiations. She started saying we instead of I. Backed my decisions in front of the kids instead of behind closed doors. One night, Evan came home late. Not too late, but past the agreed time. I stood in the doorway waiting. Rachel stood next to me. When he walked in, we didn't yell. Didn't accuse. I just asked, "What happened?" "Lost track of time," he said. Rachel stepped forward. "You respect the time, Evan, or you lose the keys." His eyes flicked to me, then back to her. He nodded. Got it. No argument. No backtalk. That was new. And that's when I knew something had shifted, not just in him, but in her. She wasn't the middleman anymore. She was beside me. We were becoming something that resembled a team. It wasn't perfect. Some nights Rachel still flinched when I brought up the past. Still looked at me like she wasn't sure whether to defend them or apologize again. But she was trying. Trying honestly. And I gave that effort more weight than her silence used to carry. Evan enrolled in a vocational trade program a few towns over. Said he wanted to be an electrician. He asked me if I could help him study for the certification test. I said yes. He didn't thank me. Didn't have to. He showed up at the table the next night with a notebook, 3 different highlighters, and a look on his face I hadn't seen since the day we built that birdhouse together years ago, back when he still called me Mark like it was a question instead of a warning. Sophie kept working at the youth center. She came home with stories. Nothing big. Just little things. A kid who couldn't sit still. A girl who wanted to braid her hair. A toddler who cried until Sophie picked him up. "I think I'm good with kids," she said one night. "You are," I told her. She smiled, then said, "Better than Dad ever was." She said it like it didn't cost her anything. Like it was just a fact. I didn't reply, just kept fixing the hinge on the pantry door. But I heard her, and she knew I did. We still didn't use the word family in any grand, movie-ending way. No group hugs. No long confessions over dinner. Just a shared rhythm. A quieter air. A house that no longer buzzed with resentment. It was enough. More than enough. Then one day the phone rang. Rachel answered. Her face tightened. She mouthed the name to me before speaking it out loud. "Derek." She handed me the phone. "He wants to talk to you." I didn't move. "Why?" Rachel shrugged. Said it's important. I took the phone. "Mark," Derek said, his voice flat, like this was some overdue business call. "I heard Evan's applying for an apprenticeship. That true?" "Yeah." "You helping him?" I didn't answer. He kept going. "I figured maybe it's time I got more involved. Maybe I could help cover some of the gear. Tools, for the program." I leaned against the wall. "He asked you for help?" "No," Derek said. "Rachel mentioned it." I let the silence sit there, long enough to make him uncomfortable. "He doesn't need a check," I said. "He needs a man to show up. And you missed your window." Derek exhaled like he'd been holding his breath. "I just want to do something," he said, almost a whisper. "You had years," I said. "You did nothing." He tried to argue, but I hung up before he could twist it. There was nothing left to say. Rachel looked at me. What did he want? To pretend he helped. She nodded. Didn't say more, because she knew, and maybe for the first time, she agreed with me. The next week, Evan passed his practice exam. I found the printout on the table, highlighted and crumpled. He didn't say anything, just waited for me to find it. When I did, I handed it back to him. Good job. He nodded. Thanks, Dad. It was soft, barely there, like a cigarette ember just before it dies. But it burned all the same. I didn't react, didn't smile. Just gave him the look a man gives another when the words finally match the work. Rachel cried later, quietly, in the bedroom. I didn't comfort her, because she was grieving a version of her son, the one who needed Derek to be enough. Now he didn't. He had chosen something else. He had chosen me. Weeks passed. Sophie got accepted into a program at the local college. Not a full ride, but enough to keep her here. Clothes. Rachel offered to help with books. Evan said he'd chip in with whatever he could spare. I just nodded. Didn't offer money. Didn't offer praise. Just let them find their rhythm. Because this time they were investing too. Not just spending what I gave. They were building. Together. The house felt different now. Not polished. Not healed. But lived in. Earned. There were still scars. Things I didn't forget. Things I wouldn't forgive easily. But I didn't carry the same weight anymore. Because it wasn't just me carrying it. Rachel made dinner one night, her mother's recipe. Chicken with lemon and thyme. Evan set the table. Sophie lit the candles. They didn't do it for show. They just did it. After dinner, Rachel poured 2 glasses of wine. Sat with me on the porch while the sun fell behind the trees. You ever think we'd get here? She asked. I shook my head. Didn't think we'd survive. She touched my hand. You were right. I looked at her. About what? About respect. Without it, everything falls apart. I didn't answer. Didn't need to. She leaned her head on my shoulder. We sat there until the sky turned violet. Until the porch light flickered on behind us. The kids were inside. Not just existing, helping, growing, trying. And I was still here. Not because they asked me to stay. But because they finally understood what staying costs. I'm not a hero. I'm not a martyr. I'm just a man who learned the hardest truth of all. Love without respect is just servitude. You can give everything, your time, your money, your name, but if you're not seen, not heard, not counted, you're nothing more than a servant with a wedding ring. It's not about biology. It never was. Being a parent has nothing to do with blood. It's about who shows up when the noise fades. So now I leave you with this. Would you have endured it? Would you have stayed? Or would you have walked away the moment the silence said more than the words ever did? Because that's what this was, in the end, not a story about leaving, but about finally being asked to stay.